Curry gets it, the lights go out.
The game is over, and we're here to pick up the pieces. This is Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
Well, that was fun. What a way to kick off the season for the Golden State Warriors. The Dubs victorious up in Portland. Final score 139-104. The largest margin of victory for a season opener in Warriors franchise history. How about that? 139-104 was the final score. Golden State Warriors dominant up in Portland today to kick off the 2024-25 season. Welcome into Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. Hit us up on the Comcast Business text line. Give us a call. We want to hear from you guys, Warrior fans. 888-957-9570. The Dubs kick off the season in awesome fashion. Again, the final score, 139-104. Dubs over the Blazers up in Portland. It was a little bit of a slow start, but man, the Dubs picked it up after that. The first quarter, it was kind of ugly, at least offensively. The Warriors 6 for 23 from the field. That's 26% in the first quarter. Only 2 for 12 from downtown. Everybody not named Buddy Hield went 0 from deep in that first quarter. But how about these numbers for the rest of the game? After the Warriors were 6 for 23 from the field in the first quarter and 2 for 12 from deep in the first quarter, they go 42 for 70 and 18 for 36 from downtown. The rest of the game, the Warriors dominant in quarters 2, 3, and 4. They really controlled the middle half of this game. They win the second quarter 41-29, the third quarter 37-22, and it was, Buddy Hield fit in seamlessly. It felt like Buddy Hield has been a Warrior for a really long time. Buddy Hield, how about this? He only played 14 minutes and 44 seconds in this game, but you could argue he had the largest impact of anyone that played in this game in those 14 minutes and 44 seconds. Buddy Hield, 22 points. He was 8 for 12 from the field, 5 for 7 from downtown, 5 rebounds and an assist. He was great, a plus 20 in his 14 minutes and 44 seconds. Hield felt like he's been a Warrior for a long time with how he performed today. He was very good. It wasn't Steph Curry's best shooting night, especially early. He did not make a three-pointer in the first half, but got going in the second half. He finishes a rebound shy of a triple-double, 17 points for Steph Curry, 9 rebounds and 10 assists. He was 4 for 10 from the field and 3 of 7 from downtown. Steph Curry got going offensively after that first quarter, specifically after the first half as well. But, he was controlling this game with his passing. He was getting on the boards. He was great in this one as well. And the Warriors, they played 12 deep today. Moses Moody was the last guy of the regular 12 off the bench. 2 others played, so the Warriors played 14, their entire roster in total. Guy Santos and Lindy Waters III played the final 5 minutes and 7 seconds in this game, so the Warriors played 14, but really the rotation was 12. We will hear from Steve Kerr coming up in a little bit here on Warriors Wrap-Up. He has already mentioned post-game that he plans on playing a 12-man rotation for at least an extended period of time to begin the regular season. We'll see how long that does last, but still, I think there are some things that we can gather from this first game. Moses Moody did not play in the first quarter. He then played to begin the second quarter, committed 3 very quick fouls, did not play the rest of the first half, got in late in the third, continued to play, opening up the fourth quarter, and then, of course, the Warriors had some garbage time minutes that he played in as well. But Moody, of the 12, was the last off the bench. Kyle Anderson was the one right before Moses Moody. They were men 11 and 12 today. But some of the newbies, man, they showed up and they played really good basketball. Of course, specifically Buddy Hield, who we've already talked about. DeAnthony Melton was solid as well. Not the best shooting night, 4 of 11, 2 for 8, but he had 10 points, did a little bit of everything with a couple of rebounds and 4 assists, had 3 steals. One other area that I loved from the Golden State Warriors, man, they forced turnovers and they got out and ran. They ran the floor amazingly. How about this? For the Golden State Warriors, the way that they got out and ran the floor, they turned their defense into points on the other side. They forced 16 Portland turnovers, which isn't a crazy number, but they turned those 16 turnovers into 22 points. And the Warriors on the fast break, where they scored a lot of those points off turnovers, 31-5 was the fast break point edge in favor of the Golden State Warriors. They were the quicker, the longer, the more athletic basketball team, and everyone was running the floor. I feel like when you think about Golden State Warriors and fast break buckets, oftentimes you see, Draymond Green pushing the tempo and dumping it off to Steph Curry for a fast break layup, or it's Wiggins, or it's Kuminga. Buddy Hield was running the floor. Draymond Green was running the floor. There was a moment in the first half, I think it's kind of where this game flipped when the Warriors offense started clicking. It was when Steph Curry got a defensive rebound. Draymond Green was running down the floor, and Steph Curry throws a full length of the court, kind of full court outlet pass to a streaking Draymond. Nice catch, layup, bucket, good, and the Warriors are off and running. Everyone was running the floor, and that is what Steve Kerr told us was a point of emphasis for this team coming into the regular season. So great to see that. The Warriors running. The Warriors are getting up a ton of threes. That's no surprise either. We knew that was coming given what we saw in the preseason. The Warriors put up 48 three-pointers in this game. They made 20 of them, which all in all, it's a pretty good number. If you put up 48 threes and you shoot an almost 42% on those, 20 for 48, right around 42%, just a tick under, you'll take that. Considering how slow they started from downtown, going 20 for 48 from deep is a really amazing number. Again, they were 2 for 12 from deep in the first quarter. The rest of the game, they go 18 for 36. 18 for 36, 50% from downtown, quarters 2, 3, and 4. You're not going to get that every single game. Of course, if you get anything near that, you're going to be very, very hard to beat. Now, I say all this not to bring everybody down, and shout out to the 510 on the Comcast Business text line. They're playing with joy again. Also, shout out to the 262. The new additions fit perfectly. Loved Buddy's shooting, Melton's attitude, and Slow-Mo's awareness. And Lindy Waters III got in for the final 5 minutes of garbage time. The 262 saying that second three from the corner was nice. He can fill it up. He can shoot the ball. Lindy Waters really can shoot, but you can also give us a call, 888-957-9570. I don't mean to pour cold water on what was a really, really nice win, but we do have to address the elephant in the room, which is just simply that this is a Portland Trail Blazers basketball team who might be more interested in losing games this year than winning. Does not take away from this being an impressive and a nice win for the Warriors. No doubt about that. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. No doubt. Nice win. But we also got to admit who the Warriors were playing. And you take into account also who was available, or maybe better put, who wasn't available for the Blazers in this one. Shaedon Sharpe, Robert Williams III, and Matisse Thybulle, 3 rotation pieces for the Blazers, not available tonight. So got to keep that in mind. Got to keep the opponent in mind. But when you are a Warriors team coming off of what happened last year, where very little was easy for you, you'll take a win like this anytime you could get it. I don't know how you guys all felt, and you can let me know, 888-957-9570. I would have taken a narrow win. Take a win any way you can get it. But how about to open the regular season, you get a win on the road against, again, not a great team, but a road win where Steph Curry does not have to play in the fourth quarter. You know how long it took for Steph Curry to get to rest in a fourth quarter last year? 13 games. 13 games. Everything was nip and tuck early for the Warriors, and that really was the case all season long. If you rack your brain and you rewind 7 months now, 6, 7, 8 months, you get back into the heart of the season, there was the statistic, and it kind of became overwhelming, and you kind of drowned in this stat over the course of the whole season. But, the clutch time games. The Warriors played the most clutch games in the NBA last year. Games that were within a 5-point margin in the final 5 minutes of regulation or overtime. And the Warriors led the NBA in that mark, and they weren't great in terms of win-loss in those games. And it was why last year was so frustrating, because you turn a few of those really tight losses into wins, and suddenly this might be a fifth seed team instead of a team that's looking into the play-in. So that's what the backdrop is for this season. So you're never going to complain about a dominant win where your stars, and particularly your aging veteran stars, namely Steph Curry, but also Draymond Green fits that description, don't have to play major minutes. How about this? The Warriors played 14 players today, but even if we forget about Guy Santos and Lindy Waters III at the end of the bench playing the final 5 minutes of garbage time, the Warriors essentially played a 12-man rotation, which across the NBA is almost kind of unheard of. But those 12 guys, the Warriors did not play a single player, well, that won, but barely. Basically, every Warriors player played under 25 minutes tonight. Steph Curry played 25 minutes and 4 seconds, just barely over 25 minutes. That's the highest minute total for any Warrior in this game tonight, 25 minutes and 4 seconds. No one else played more than that. You have the next highest was Brandon Pajemski off the bench, 24 minutes and 56 seconds. Trey Jackson-Davis played just shy of 25 minutes as well. And then you got a lot of guys in the teens, other than Draymond, who played just over 20. You got Kuminga, 19. D'Anthony Melton, 19 off the bench. Buddy Hield and Gary Payton and Kyle Anderson and Moses Moody all played 14 plus. The Warriors balanced the roster, not just in terms of scoring. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players scored in double figures. So not just balanced offensively and scoring-wise, but balanced in terms of pure minutes total. And a big part of that, of course, is the opponent and is the score. If it was tighter, then the rotation would have been tighter, of course. But Steve Kerr saying post-game, and we'll hear from him coming up in a little bit, Steve Kerr saying post-game that he plans to stick with a 12-man rotation going forward. And we can talk a little bit more about that later as well. I would love your thoughts on what this rotation should look like. I know there's a lot of Moses Moody fans out there, and Moses played. He got in, played 15 minutes. Some of that was garbage time down the stretch. He was 5 for 11 from the field, got up a lot of shots in his 15 minutes, 3 of 8 from deep, finished with 15 points, had a couple of rebounds, a couple of assists, did not turn the ball over. It wasn't his best start, committed 3 very quick fouls in his first 4 minutes of the game. He did not play the full first quarter, and then played the very beginning of the second where he committed those 3 early fouls, and then had to sit out the rest of the half, and he came in late in the third and played a decent portion of the fourth quarter as well. But it's easy to play a 12-man rotation when you're winning basketball games, and we're only 1 game into this season, but a good start. I'll be curious to see how the rotation changes when things are a little more challenging than they were tonight. Again, no disrespect to the Portland Trail Blazers. Again, their goal this year and what might be best for them and their franchise overall, it's a sad state of affairs, but this is true across the NBA. It might be best for them to lose basketball games this year and try to capture the flag, as I put it in Warriors Live, tank for Cooper Flagg, the freshman phenom at Duke right now, who's probably going to be the top overall pick in next summer's NBA draft. That might be in Portland's future. But when things are more challenging, say when you take on the Los Angeles Clippers on Sunday in the home opener, maybe even in Utah in 2 nights from now, when you play your second game of the season on Friday evening, it's a little bit tougher. The game's in the balance in the fourth quarter. How does that rotation change and develop for the Golden State Warriors moving forward? That is something to keep an eye on. The other thing that we got to talk about is the starting lineup. We mentioned it in Warriors Live. If you were with us here pregame on 95.7 The Game, the Golden State Warriors going with a big starting lineup. Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins at the 2. How about that? Wiggins playing the 2. Then Jonathan Kuminga at the 3. That's a little odd as well, considering Kuminga played almost exclusively at the 4 last year. And then Draymond Green and Trey Jackson-Davis. Of all the things to be excited about for the Warriors, maybe one of the issues was that starting group, at least how they began the game. And some of this was just bad shooting. The Warriors were getting open looks. I think Steph missed a couple of wide open threes in that first quarter, and you're going to miss some shots. It's just the nature of it. I mean, Steph is a career a little bit over 40% three-point shooter, so that means he misses 6 out of 10 that he takes. He misses 3 out of 5 that he takes. He's going to miss some, no doubt. He missed a couple, and if those go in, it feels different. If Buddy Hields go in early in that first quarter as well, I know he made 2 in the first, but he missed the first couple he took. That whole first quarter and that unit is going to feel differently. But I think the feeling that a lot of Warriors fans had with that lineup was, I'm not sure if there's enough shooting for that lineup. And it's just one game, and it was a relatively small sample. I mean, the guys played about 6 minutes together, that starting group: Curry, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. That starting group played about 6 minutes together in the first quarter. I have it right here exactly. The first sub was when Buddy Hield came in for Kuminga with about 6:45 left in the first quarter. So the guys played about 5:15 together in the first quarter. They were down 7 at that point. So that group, that starting unit, a -7 in their first 5+ minutes together of the game. They only played again together to begin the third quarter, and it was much better in the third quarter. That group was a +5 in the first 6 minutes of that third quarter. So on the day, that starting unit, the big unit, which is Curry, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trayce Jackson-Davis, they were a -2 in around, 11+ minutes of total action. Okay, small sample, but we will keep that in mind as this Warriors season continues to develop for the Golden State Warriors. Keep that in mind because Steve Kerr has already said that he wants to give that lineup a real shot. And yeah, you should. We're not going to overreact to just one game, but it's a running tally. Game 1 wasn't great for that unit. A lot of it, I think, was because of Jonathan Kuminga. And we're not going to overreact to one Jonathan Kuminga poor performance either. It was certainly not his best game. It was certainly not his best first half. He was better in the second half. The first half, though, was a little rough for Jonathan Kuminga, and that's okay. It's one game. It's one half of basketball that we're talking about. He will certainly play better than that going forward. But is he going to be consistent enough shooting the basketball to make that lineup work? Because you're going to need the shooting from both Wiggins and Kuminga to do that. And to Wiggins' credit, after only a couple of preseason games, dealing with an illness early in the preseason, Wiggins looked pretty darn good. 8 for 15 from the field, 4 for 7 from downtown. He scored 20 points. Had 4 rebounds, a couple of assists, only turned the ball over once. Wiggins was active. He was running the floor. He looked smooth. I could not tell that he missed most of the preseason. He seemed with it conditioning-wise. Only played 23 minutes. That's a good number for someone trying to get back up to full speed. But Wiggins did not look rusty to me. It was the Jonathan Kuminga struggles that I think for the most part kept that starting group from performing a whole lot better. And we can talk about that coming up on the other side as well. All right, Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. Would love to hear from you guys, Warrior fans. Basketball is finally back, and the Dubs are undefeated. They're perfect on the season with a dominant win today. 139-104 is the final score. We'll take a break, but you can join the conversation. 888-957-9570. That is also the Comcast Business text line. Love to hear from you there as well. It's Mark Randy with you. We'll also catch up with Steve Kerr, who has addressed the media postgame. That's coming up on the other side, and a whole lot more as Warriors wrap-up continues. The Dubs dominant tonight to kick off this season. More Warriors wrap-up next on 95.7 The Game.
I'm Brian Tedesco, CEO of Blaupunk Americas, the pioneers of the car stereo. Today, we're not just about sound systems. We are revolutionizing the e-bike scene with Blue Dot Bike.
Wrap-up continues. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game. The Dubs victorious in Portland. 139-104 was the final score. How about that performance by the Dubs? A lot to be happy with. If you are a Golden State Warrior fan and we want to hear from you, give us a call, 888-957-9570. That is also the Comcast Business text line. A couple of texts coming in through the break. Let's take a look at them here. The 650 chiming in. Moody should have played earlier with the second unit, and that's totally fair, 650. But the question is, who does he come in and play those minutes over? Who does he play over in that second group? I mean, you look at how it worked for the Golden State Warriors in this one. Buddy Hield was the first sub. I guess, first of all, let's go back to the starting lineup. Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. Okay, that's the starting five, right? Yeah, that's the starting five. The first sub came about 5 minutes into the game. Buddy Hield came in for Jonathan Kuminga. So what that does is the five at that point, Steph, Buddy Hield, Wiggins. So Wiggins slides back to the 3, which is normally where he plays. Draymond stays at the 4, and Trayce Jackson-Davis stays at the 5. That seems like a more prototypical group, right? Like, Hield certainly is more of a 2 than Wiggins is a 2. Wiggins fits a little bit more as a 3, I think, and Draymond 4, Trayce Jackson-Davis 5. And I think after the way that Hield played today, 22 points, 8 of 12 shooting, 5 of 7 from downtown, there will be a lot of people calling for Hield to be in the starting lineup. And I'm not so sure that that's something that should happen. I mean, that group played well together, but also having someone like Buddy Hield come off the bench can really help. I mean, you remember what happened last year, and this was obviously a gigantic part of this was Klay Thompson and kind of the Warriors having to walk on eggshells around him because of everything he's accomplished in his career and being asked to come off the bench. But there was a chunk of the second half of last season where Klay Thompson was coming off the bench, and it was kind of working. Like, having that sharp shooter who can just come in and give you automatic offense. That's really, really nice to have. Now, you might get to a point where you need a little bit more shooting in the starting lineup or in a potential closing lineup. And again, just because this is the starting 5 does not mean it will be the closing 5. In fact, I would be a little surprised if that was the closing 5 on a consistent basis going forward. But if you are the Golden State Warriors and you're thinking about potential combinations, that's certainly one to think of as well. The 650 also chiming in on the Comcast Business text line. You can join the conversation, 888-957-9570. Maybe reverse the Pods and Moody minutes and then reverse Hield and Wiggins. There's a lot of different ways that we could play this out. I mean, the Warriors literally played 12 regular rotation guys today. 12 of them. Now, some of them were small rotations and few rotations. Moody only played one chunk of minutes in the first half, and that was about 3 minutes, a little more than 3. In fact, I probably have the full number here for you, the exact number. 1 sec. In the first half, Moses Moody played 3 minutes and 33 seconds. He committed 3 fouls. Part of that is because of the 3 fouls. I'm sure he would have played more if he didn't commit those 3 fouls very early. But you got 12 rotation guys that you're trying to fit in. I don't have the ability to do those combinations, the permutations in my head, but like, you have hundreds of thousands of potential combinations that you can choose from and play. So it's going to be very, very, I think, tough for Steve Kerr to find something, not necessarily that works. I mean, I'm sure a good chunk of these combinations could work, but in order to find the best possible combination or the one that works better than anything else or a group of them that work in tandem, that's going to be tough. That's going to be difficult to do because there's just so many. Also on the Comcast Business text line, the 262 saying that the defense was helpful in the shooting drought, but Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Trayce Jackson-Davis leave a lot on the table on offense. I feel like they could do more to set up plays for JK. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, 262. That group, specifically if Wiggins and Kuminga struggle to shoot the ball, it's going to be a little bit of a difficult time on offense, specifically in the half court. That group can get out and run, and that group can use the defense, and I think that's what the 262 is talking about there. That group is, theoretically, it should be good defensively. I think Kuminga has yet to show, yet to reach his full defensive potential, but that group should be pretty good defensively. With Wiggins and with the length of Kuminga and with Draymond Green, of course, we know how good of a defender he still is. One of the best, if not the best defender in the NBA still at this stage. Certainly the most versatile defender, and he probably elevates everybody else around him on the defensive end better than anybody else. That should be a pretty good group defensively. And if that group can get stops and force turnovers and use that to get out and run, that will make the offense come a little bit easier, no doubt about it. So that's one area to consider. For example, if you sub Hield in for Kuminga in the starting lineup, if you sub Hield in for Wiggins in the starting lineup, if you sub Hield in for Trayce Jackson-Davis in the starting lineup, and you push Draymond to the 5, that's not going to be nearly as good of a defensive group. It's probably going to be a better offensive group, but it's pluses and minuses almost everywhere in these instances. So it's a lot of potential options for Steve Kerr to think through, but that is certainly one. The other idea, the other potential spot for the Warriors, maybe think about DeAnthony Melton in the starting lineup, or in a lineup next to Steph Curry and those other non-shooters. But the question then becomes exactly what we were just talking about. Who comes out and who swaps out of those minutes and that spot in the rotation? Because if you put Melton in, are you taking out Wiggins? Probably not. Are you taking out Kuminga? Steve Kerr has said he wants to play Jonathan Kuminga in the starting lineup. You're not taking out Draymond. You're not taking out Steph, which means you're going to have to take out Trayce Jackson-Davis, which means Draymond Green's going to have to play more 5. And part of why I think the Warriors were a little scared last year when they didn't really have Trayce Jackson-Davis yet, and Kevon Looney was relatively ineffective, was, well, we're kind of forced to be playing Draymond a lot of minutes at the 5, and generally we don't like doing that until we get into closing moments, and then we have Draymond playing the 5 because he's still a really good player at the 5, but we're worried about him wearing down too soon. Like, you might get to the point where you think maybe your best 5-man rotation features Draymond at the 5, but you don't want to turn to that too early in the season or too often for fear that he might wear down. Draymond today also got a technical foul. We got to worry about that. And I mean, the referees today, the officials gave him quite a long leash on that technical foul, and he still ended up getting the technical foul. I mean, Draymond Green is in mid-season form already. Good news, though, he stopped after that one and did not get another, but something to keep an eye on, of course, as the season continues. Okay, Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. I've talked enough. Let's hear from the coach, Steve Kerr, post-game. This comes courtesy of our friends at NBC Sports Bay Area. Steve Kerr post-game addressing the media after his Warriors beat the Blazers 139-104. Here is Coach Kerr post-game tonight.
I just like the way we stayed with it after that slow start. And then we just had a lot of guys come off the bench and play with great energy. And I think that's the strength of our team. Is just the depth and the ability to play a lot of different ways and different people. And, the only way it works is if everybody buys into it. And the guys have done that, and they've had a great camp, and it's a good way to start out the year.
You went to 11 guys in the first 9 minutes and then 12 by the first 13. Is that deep and that quickly of a rotation? Is that kind of what you're looking to do and sustain that?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to do it. I've never played 12 before, but we're going to do it. So it's not easy, but it's not easy on anybody. But we just have to trust that from one night to the next, we're going to find guys and combinations that really work. And the guys have to understand that some nights their night, some nights not, and that's okay as long as we continue to play together and play hard. I think it's going to be a really fun team to watch for our fans. They play both sides of the ball, and a lot of good energy, and they like each other. The ball moves, and it was fun to watch them play tonight.
When did you decide that, I assume maybe a couple weeks ago, you're like, all right, we got to find a few people that not have in the rotation. When did you decide that, no, you're just going to play all
Yesterday, honestly. I didn't, 2 days ago, I was thinking, well, maybe I'll just play 10 and I'll just have to tell two of these guys that they're going to sit. And I couldn't justify that because they've all played really well in camp. And I even felt bad sitting Lindy. Lindy's had a great camp. He's one of our highest plus minus guys in camp for all the preseason games. So this is as deep a team as I've ever coached, and we've got to lean into that. And we're going to play a lot of people.
How'd you like the pace?
All right, and that's Steve Kerr post game earlier today after the Warriors knock off the Blazers 139-104. A couple of things that Steve Kerr mentioned. Quote. He thinks the strength of the Warriors team is, quote, depth and our ability to play a lot of different ways. And that is a really good point. Obviously, there are some drawbacks to playing that many players because at times maybe you kind of fail to get everybody in a rhythm. That makes sense. Like probably a little bit difficult for Moses Moody to get into a rhythm when he's playing the set of minutes that he played tonight. Now, he ended up playing nearly 15 minutes tonight. A lot of that was in the fourth quarter when the game was decided, so we can't really fully tell exactly what that will be like going forward. But Moses Moody played 3 minutes and 33 seconds in the first half. That's going to be difficult to get a rhythm in. No doubt about that. And that goes for a lot of different players. Now, one of the benefits, Steve Kerr didn't talk about this one, but one of the benefits is limiting minutes for your aging veteran stars, right? Like Steph Curry played the most minutes of any Warrior tonight, but only played 25 minutes and 4 seconds. Like, that's an incredible number for the Golden State Warriors. Oh, and by the way, Steph Curry in those 25 minutes, a rebound shy of a triple-double. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. Had a couple of steals, only turned the ball over twice. There was a stretch in that third quarter, and this was with that starting group that had a couple of stretches today. They had the stretch to begin the game and the stretch to begin the second half. It wasn't great to begin the game, mostly because the shots simply weren't falling. And it wasn't terrible, but the shots weren't falling. They were -7 in their first 5-15 of the game. In the third quarter, that same group began. Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Trace Jackson-Davis. They were better. They were a +5 at about 6 minutes to begin the third quarter, but they also featured, I think, 4 turnovers. Maybe it was 5 turnovers in the first 4 minutes. I have it here. Where did it go? The Warriors, that group, committed 4 turnovers in the very beginning of that period of basketball with that group on the floor. And 2 of them were, no, it was 5. My mistake. 5 turnovers, and 2 of them were from Steph Curry. Steph Curry committed 2. Draymond committed 1. I think Kuminga committed 1, and Wiggins committed 1. Everybody but Trace Jackson-Davis committed 1, and Steph committed 2. That was a rough stretch. Still, though, despite all of those turnovers, that group still outscored the Blazers group by 5 points in the first 6 minutes of that quarter. And in total, that starting 5 was a -2. They were a net -2 in their 11-plus minutes on the floor together. Very, very, very small sample size, but write that number down, put it in your notes app on your iPhone, and come back to it Friday afternoon, Friday evening, when the Warriors play game number 2, and we'll see. We'll track in real time how that group performs as the season goes along. It wasn't awesome tonight, but it also is not that big of a deal in a game like tonight because you won 139-104. And oh, by the way, it's the largest margin of victory in a season opener in Warriors franchise history. They won by 35 tonight, the previous largest win in Warriors franchise history to begin a season was 2013 against the Lakers when they won by 31 points. So a little bit of history tonight for the Golden State Warriors in that one. So having that big of a rotation, again, maybe the drawback is it's hard to get guys in rhythm. Maybe you have some guys who get a little frustrated that they should be playing more or should be playing, in certain moments with certain other groups because there's so many possible permutations of rotations of lineups. But you also get the ability to limit minutes for key veteran players. And as Steve Kerr talked about, you have the ability to match almost any kind of style, right? Like you have the ability to play a number of different ways. Like if you need a bigger unit, and the Warriors are never going to be able to play like a 7-footer. Like you got Quentin Post, who's the tallest Warrior, but he's the second-round draft pick out of Boston College. And he's really not a true big man, right? Like Donovan Clingan, the 7th overall pick for the Blazers, who we saw a little bit of tonight, came in off the bench, played 12 and a half minutes, only scored a couple of points, didn't really do much. I would like to see him play more minutes, by the way, especially if I'm a Blazers fan. I'm very high on Clingan. If I'm a Blazer fan, I am screaming into the void, why is Donovan Clingan not playing more? Figure out what you got in this guy. I know it's only game one. I'm probably overreacting, but I would want to see more Donovan Clingan. The Warriors are never going to be able to match up like man for man with someone like that. I mean, Clingan 7'2". Think about, when you play the Rudy Goberts of the world, when you take on the T-Wolves, who lost last night against the Lakers in LA, by the way. You're never going to be able to just have that 7-footer to throw out there and match up big for big that way. But if the Warriors need to play bigger, like the Blazers are the biggest team in the NBA, the tallest on average team in the NBA. They got a lot of size. I mean, you got Ayton, you got Clingan, you've got Jeremy Grant, you got Toumani Camara, who's big. Like you got some long athletic dudes. If the Warriors need to match up with somebody like that, you can throw the lineup that they threw out there to begin the game. Steph Curry, along with Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. How about that? How about that length? 2 through 5. Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond, and Trayce Jackson-Davis. That is a long, athletic, quick 2 through 5, excuse me. You want to play quicker? You want to play more up and down? You want to play more shooting centric? You could put Steph Curry and DeAnthony Melton and Buddy Hield on the floor together. You want to go, Lindy Waters can shoot the ball. You can play a more defensive brand where you have Steph Curry and DeAnthony Melton and Buddy Hield at the 3. Like you got 3 really good shooters there. So Steve Kerr is right when he says that our strength is that we can play a lot of ways. You can kind of match styles, and you might be able to win a game that is 137 to 133. You might also be able to grind out a game that's 107 to 103. You might be able to play a couple of different ways, and that is good news for the Golden State Warriors. You might also be able to again, match styles with opposing teams. And we know that there's a lot of different ways that teams in the Western Conference play. There's a lot of different stars and stars that do entirely different things. I think the Warriors might have the horses to play a couple of different ways. I don't know how I've gotten this far without maybe giving out the craziest stat of the game. And it's Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. How about Brandon Pajemski? And I know Brandon Pajemski's kind of like a lightning rod in the Warriors fan base. If you're on Twitter, on Warriors Twitter, and if you're seeing our text line right now, 888-957-9570, maybe you feel this way as well. Brandon Pajemski, 25 minutes today. He was a game best, plus 34 in those 25 minutes. That means in his 25 minutes on the court today, the Warriors outscored the Blazers by 34 points. Generally speaking, what you think about that is when he's on the floor, good things are happening. Now, plus minus can be kind of fickle. It's very dangerous. when you're talking about extremely small sample size, the reason I bring it up for Podziemski was because he was this way all of last year. The Warriors' best plus-minus player all season long once he got into the rotation consistently. So I haven't even told you the best part of the statistic yet. He was plus 34 in those 25 minutes. Did not score. He did not score. 0 for 5 from the field, 0 for 4 from downtown. But when he was on the floor in 25 minutes, the Warriors outscored the Blazers by 34 points. That's pretty good, despite not scoring. When he's out there, good things were happening. And in a small sample like this, that could mean anything. I mean, Podziemski could have played terribly, but everybody else, while he was on the floor, was just knocking down shots. And that's certainly what this was to a certain extent tonight. I'm not denying that. That's what it was tonight. But I think we have to give Podziemski some credit here as well, because this was the case all of last year. And that sample size from last year is large enough to back up the fact that, generally speaking, when he's out there on the court, good things are happening. Very small sample size so far this year, but if we take last year into account, this is not a coincidence. That tends to happen with Podziemski on the floor. But yes, the 650 saying not that great might mean others off the bench covered for him. Yes, you're right. And shout out to the 650. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. That comes courtesy of the Comcast Business text line. You would love to see Podziemski shoot the ball a little bit better. 0 for 4 from downtown. Had a couple of open looks, but still, he was effective in this game. Buddy Hield was also effective. I mean, he was a plus 20 in his 14 minutes and 44 seconds. How about Steph Curry? After putting together certainly not his best first quarter when he did not make a field goal, only had one field goal in the first half. He finished a plus 23, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. And a little bit of love for Pods coming in on the Comcast Business text line as well with the 650. So, Brandon Podziemski was effective in this game despite not scoring. You hear it if you're deep enough into Warriors Twitter, or if you listen to the broadcasts enough, both here on 95.7 The Game, Tim Roy does a great job, or Fitz and Buki on the NBC Sports Bay Area television broadcasts. You hear Kyle Anderson, right? He does a lot of the Draymond things, right? Like, doesn't need to score. He can play kind of the point forward, point center kind of spot. I mean, Minnesota last year was awesome when Kyle Anderson was their 5. When he played the 5, the T-Wolves were one of the best teams in basketball. He can play the 5. Anderson has some of those Draymond components. So does Brandon Podziemski. He has the same kind of impact on the court when he's out there. So that's something to keep an eye on as well for Brandon Podziemski and the Golden State Warriors. It's Warriors Wrap Up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you as we continue to jump through what happened in this game. The Warriors, the largest margin of victory in a season opener in franchise history. They beat the Blazers 139-104. How good was it to see the Warriors just come out and blitz somebody in the third quarter, by the way? I mean, that was awesome. It felt like the third quarter Warriors were back. You remember back in the heyday of the dynasty when this team was winning championships left and right, and they would just come out and blitz teams in that third quarter. How about this? 37-22, the edge in the third quarter, only overshadowed by what they did the quarter before, by the way, in the second quarter when they outscored the Blazers 41-29. The Warriors really dominated the middle half of this basketball game. 41-29 and then 37-22. That math really quickly in my head is 78 to 51 in the middle two quarters. 78-51 in the middle half of this basketball game. That's pretty dominant for the Golden State Warriors. You play 12 guys, regular minutes. You play 14 in total. You got to clear the bench. Steph Curry did not play in the fourth quarter. He was a rebound shy of a triple-double. You got to win on the road in dominant fashion to begin the season. A lot of boxes checked for the Golden State Warriors in this one. Okay, we got one piece of business to take care of before we do get on out of here on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game, and that is Crashing the Boards, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Crashing the Boards. Who crashed the boards tonight for the Golden State Warriors? Well, it's none other than the shortest guy who played, at least in the starting lineup for the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry. Steph Curry led the Warriors with 9 rebounds in this basketball game, and only DeAndre Ayton, the Blazers center, had more than Steph in the entire game. Ayton had 11. The next highest Blazer was Denny Avdia, who came over from Washington, 7 rebounds. Steph Curry, 9 rebounds. Brandon Pajemski, 7 rebounds. That is kind of a carryover from last year when this Warrior team was the best rebounding team in the NBA, despite their best rebounders kind of being their guards. Steph Curry, 9 rebounds. Brandon Pajemski, 7. The guards getting it done, and that is Crashing the Boards, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Shout out to Chilton Auto Body here on Warriors Wrap Up. Steph Curry and Brandon Pajemski doing a great job on the boards. All right, Warriors Wrap Up here on 95.7 The Game. We'll get on out of here in just a second as the Dubs knock off the Blazers. 139-104 was the final score. An awesome performance for the Warriors in this one, and now they get ready to take on the Utah Jazz. That game is coming up on Friday here on 95.7 The Game. It does begin at 6:30. The tip-off is at 6:30 from Salt Lake City, which means we've got you covered here on Warriors Live beginning at 5:30, and that will be Willard and Dibbs here on 95.7 The Game. So we have that to look forward to coming up on Friday. And then the Dubs, they return home to take on the Los Angeles Clippers on Sunday to begin the Warriors' regular season home slate. But 6:30 on Friday at Salt Lake, in Salt Lake against the Jazz. Coverage begins at 5:30, and then the Warriors, they return home to begin their home slate this regular season on Sunday against the Los Angeles Clippers. Before I get on out here, did want to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. For a low-rate auto loan, apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. A great first night of Golden State Warriors basketball here on 95.7 The Game. The Dubs break a little bit of their own franchise's history, the largest margin of victory in franchise history. 35 points tonight, 139-104. For Cam Williams, for Chris O'Connell, my name is Mark Graney signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game, of course, and we got more Warriors basketball for you coming up on Friday evening right here on 95.7 The Game.
Navien tankless water heaters, the proven leader in condensing technology. Request a Navien because you deserve the best in endless hot water delivery.